Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Our topic for today is letter writing, which is very important in communication skills because in communication, when we are communicating, basically we are corresponding, and in our correspondence, letter is a very important and basic thing. So, letters are usually used for the external communication. There are many kinds of writing, different genres of writing. It may be formal, maybe informal, but here we are concerned for the business letters and they are more formal most of the time. So business letter are somehow more important than the social letters. Social letters sometimes can also say the kind of informal letter. We don't need to follow any kind of format in social letters. No formalities. These are kind of open-ended. So we have to follow no norms and traditions and formats in social letters. So that's why we can say they are open-ended. As compared to the business letters, they are more specific and accurate. If we are saying they're more specific and accurate, it doesn't mean that this is a kind of distinction. They are superior or inferior. But it means that it is concerned with their unique purpose and consideration of the context, business context even. So, due to the business context and keeping in view and considering the business context and due to their unique purpose, they need to be more specific and accurate. Now, in letter writing, while we are trying to formulate a letter, a design letter, a business letter, we need to consider for a few factors, like we need to know that our audience has a very limited time. The business world, the entrepreneurs are too busy, so they have no time to go into too much details. Then they are concerned that this is relevant to their business details or not, they're relevant to their business world or not. So the relevance and the time management are very important. Then the another very important thing is that we should know while we are making a letter that our audience need to get to the bottom line immediately. Now, what does bottom line mean? Bottom line means they want to find out what is the real purpose, why the letter has been written, what is the objective quickly. So we need to provide that bottom line. We need to provide that in a highlighted way so that again they can in a very short time they can find it out. Then we need to choose the right style. So even in business letter, they may vary from conversational style to legalistic. Conversational we can say less formal, and legalistic mean when there are legal letters, they are too much formal. So while we are writing sometime emails, they are can be conversational. So according to our requirement, we need to choose. Now, if we are too formal, more than enough, more than requirement formal, then it can bring in strangeness in the reader. So you know the context, you know the reader, you consider, you remember consideration. Accordingly, you can opt for the style. And if you are talking about a legal event and you are overly casual, then it can be considered an unprofessional approach. So you need to be balanced. You know your audience well, you know the purpose well, so accordingly you need to tone yourself and your style. Then when you're writing a letter practically, most of the time in different documents when we are designing them, when we are writing them, it is the question that we should use the personal pronouns or not. We should use I write a letter or we should use a letter is written. In letter writing, it's better that we should use personal pronoun like I, we, and you. Now, I is used, for example, if I am writing a letter, so for myself, if you are writing a letter for yourself, you can use you, I. Then you for your audience, whoever is the receiver, you can address him by using the personal pronoun you. But where come we use we? We should be used wherever we want to tell about the company policy. When we are talking about we mean as a team, whole company. So we and I both are compatible with the sender, but when sender is specific to his own opinion, he should use I, and when he is talking about the decision or policy of his company or anything about the company, he should use we rather. So this is the use of pronoun. Then we need to use active voice versus passive voice according to the requirement, as we have discussed this thing earlier on in our lecture about achieving clarity. So the link is given, you can go through that lecture. Then we need to be focused and specific. Again, if you remember the lecture of conciseness, and if you don't remember, you can go through that one for achieving specificity and focus. But there is another thing, you can see here two main ideas of the same thing. After carefully reviewing this proposal, we have decided to prioritize other projects this quarter. Nobody liked your project idea, so we are not going to give you any funding. So basically, here in both these statements, this is a kind of refusal. Now in this refusal, they are refusing to fund him. But here the first is not more concise, this one is not more concise, this one is more concise and specific. But there is another thing. If you remember the 7 C's, that's why we have studied them, they will be utilized everywhere. So if you remember them, you can find out easily that this expression is more blunt or a kind of blemish or taunting one. So no one has such skills to write this kind of statement all the time, but it is preferable if you are writing, because you are not in the exam mode over there. When you are writing these things, you are in a casual mode, you can get help from the other. So it's better that you should use this kind of expression which is more courteous instead of this one. Although this is concise, but this is not courteous. This can unnecessarily provoke the negative kind of attitude of our audience, so better to use this one. That's what this is more specific, both are specific, but this is more courteous, so we are going towards it. So as I have talked about earlier and many times about this thing, that there is no hard and fast rule, but we should know the situation and context, and accordingly we need to use it. So here we have used courtesy, and we preferred courtesy over conciseness, because you can see the statements here, and which one you like for your own self, it can answer your question. Now how we should begin our letter, let's move on. First of all, we need to focus on our purpose. What do we want to achieve through our letter? Then for achieving this purpose, what are the requirements? We think about that. What kind of idea need to be presented? What kind of other things are required? What kind of information and data is required? Then we need to list out those requirements. For example, what kind of format we are using for the letter. Then in our letter, what do we want to achieve? Accordingly, we enlist all the items. For example, if we need to get the price list or quotation letter, Then we should know what items we need, how much we need, and when we need. So we need to outline, list out all these requirements. Then these requirement list is very important because it will keep us focused. And then after making that requirement list, you can identify the answers that matches with the requirement. Mean, if I need how much items I need, how many things are required, so accordingly I can find out, okay, 20 items are required, so I can put that data in my letter. Now let's move on further. We are going to discuss the 7 essential parts of a business letter.